I think just to touch upon one thing is measurement. You sort of talked about GA4 and things like that, and traditionally from an organic perspective, or think though things are changing more recently, you look at your rankings, you look at your visibility, you look at your traffic, etc. How do we start to measure GEO and the success of that as we move into 26? And Shane, is coming to you. I mean, how do you see that happening?
Yeah, I think for right now and maybe into 2026 as well, it's not the main metric isn't going to be traffic or clicks. That's just not going to show you how well you're doing with GEO. I think there's definitely an argument to measure conversions, as Matt touched on, because people do come from AI tools once they're ready to make that decision. But in terms of the key metric, I think it needs to be visibility. Because that's what you're aiming for with these AI tools. You're aiming to be visible when people are going through this research phase, and you're not expecting a click, at least at that phase. And we know, or we can sort of really assume that that's what most use of these AI tools is about. It's the discovery phase. So the metric's got to be visibility. I think it needs to kind of sit outside of the kind of website analytics and just be a part of a kind of broader visibility strategy in a similar way that kind of brand building is and everything else. But yeah, ultimately, for me, it's visibility. You can look at the broad metrics, share of voice, sentiment, etc., and you can chunk that down into specific topics, whether they're kind of pillars and clusters that are important to the business, whether they're sort of top, middle, and funnel in terms of the buying journey, whether they're based on different ICPs, etc. But you can kind of get into the detail a bit with specific prompts and how you're positioned for them and how that's changing over time as well. So there's lots to do, but visibility is the main one.
Okay. And Matt, I mean, coming to you on this, do you think there's any other ways? Obviously, Shane's talked more on visibility, and I know you mentioned conversion earlier. Would you be looking at conversion and stuff?
I would definitely go with conversion on the basis that realistically, most people are going to need to get buy-in for budgetary reasons, essentially. So it's going to be an incredibly difficult conversation if you're just going to kind of a senior leadership team and saying, we're visible, we're there, but we haven't got there is no pound value or dollar value back from that particular thing. So I completely agree with Shane. Visibility is incredibly important within that, because that's the building block of everything. And certainly I wouldn't use the really traditional metrics from a website point of view. But I would, if you can attribute things early back into his revenue we've generated as a result of ChatGPT, even if it's just anecdotal. So I've spoken to a lot of clients and they're like, oh, I was speaking to someone the other day and they said they found us because we appeared in, they asked ChatGPT and I appeared in the list, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it definitely in the kind of the long term, it's to a certain extent, as well as training LLMs on kind of your business and stuff, you almost need to train your senior managers on actually these are the new metrics that we need to be discussing. And realistically, it's going to be more towards what are traditionally probably PR style metrics or kind of TV advertising or radio advertising metrics, where you're talking about reach and kind of how many people are like column inches and that kind of stuff that was kind of default in PR back in the day. You're probably going to then actually be looking at things like, as Shane said, sentiment, visibility, share of voice. There is average rankings. I'm not a huge fan of average rankings because there's, like in Google, that makes a bit more sense because you know how many are on a page, kind of that sort of thing, but you don't necessarily kind of have that same visibility, especially when that's being tracked across multiple models. The other thing, obviously, is much as we're discussing kind of LLMs and things like ChatGPT, you do have Google's AI overviews. You've still got the kind of the pure play Google type stuff. So I know like Ahrefs, SEMrush, they're all building in these kind of visibility within AI overviews and stuff within their reporting. So again, that might be a good one to use early on as we are being effective or we're not being effective, whichever way you want to go, to try and get that buy-in and that kind of budgetary kind of approval effectively.
And you sort of said it's really early in the stage, so like some tools are still building these out. We don't have all the information as well. I read somewhere more recently, so what about a webmaster tools or Google search, like a search console for LLMs or for ChatGPT to say, okay, your brand's appeared for X and Y visibility? It's quite difficult to see any of that. Or, I mean, do you think that might be coming in the future?
It'll be interesting because it's obviously Google have, because it's been beneficial to them. They have provided that level of insight and information and that kind of thing, because it's the way that their business model works. They need kind of that constant flow of stuff, whether they're on a subscription basis and they're kind of getting that direct money from end users, the kind of a ChatGPT is obviously subscription. Do they need to offer that level of insight, or like, do they kind of almost look at Google and go, actually, they provided all of this information and all that happened was, depending on your opinion, obviously, as people drove down the quality of the search results because they could try and reverse engineer and game stuff as much as they could. So it depends how much they want to be kind to marketers and advertisers, because obviously a lot of the information Google provides is also as a result of them running ads on their platform, which currently the LLMs don't need to do.